Hello, it's Scott Manley here with episode 53 of Interstellar Quest. We return to one of our surface probes from our Eve Explorer spacecraft, where it will descend to the surface of Eve on its last trip. It'll enter into the clouds, getting enfolded by the purple giant, and on its way down to the purple surface it will collect all sorts of scientific information and hopefully beam some of it back. That's why we had to aim for the daytime side, because the only power this has are those two little solar panels, and we want to transmit as much as possible on the way down. Running at 4 times time acceleration, we're picking up a lot of spin here, which is going to make it very hard to select scientific instruments. Might slow things down a little. The parachute is already armed, so even if I lose power, it should fire and deploy at the correct time and altitude. Look at that going there. So we got a bunch of sensors on this. Atmosphere sensor. Some of the sensors indicate large concentrations of sulfur dioxide. Mission Control insists that despite containing oxygen, the gas is not breathable. Oh my god. The materials react to the situation. Mission Control comments on your vagueness. Yes, they're spinning around like something insane now, getting extra exposed to the plasma, I suppose. Okay, well, we've slowed ourselves down quite a lot. Can we collect high altitude data before we get out of this spin? Before we go too low? There we go. Observe. The goose seems to do a little dance as it bounces around the container. Something that needs to be fixed for 23.5, right? Okay, we're trying to get into these other instruments that will prove useful. Aha! Okay, log gravity data. Oh, can't do that at this altitude. Liquid chromatograph. Nope. Oh, there's the parachute deploying. And we are on the drogue chute. High in the atmosphere of Eve, clouds of sulfuric acid can be found. Yay! The screen is displaying temperature information. Oh, it's continuously bad puns, etc., etc. The barometer is reading the same pressure as sea level of Kerbal. This would be fine if not for the vast amount of sky still below you. High in the atmosphere, etc., etc. Okay, I think we've got everything here. It's now just a case of making sure that we make our way to the surface with best possible haste. And just seeing, we're in like a barbecue roll here. Oh, look at the clouds still flying underneath us, ready to corrode us away for nothing. Oh, the barometer would be broken, if not for its ability to move the decimal really far to the right. Yes, a lot of pressure, a lot of temperature. This is not a pretty place to be. We've already got the temperature on that. And while old me continues the descent at a much faster pace, I will point out that it is in fact April 1st when this is published. So, for everyone asking whether Scott Manley is my real name, no, my real name is in fact Maximilian Powers von Awesome Dude. I can also confirm that Yuri Gagarin was not in fact the first man to orbit the Earth. However, he was the first man to land on the moon, where he found dinosaurs, Nazis, and several Pokemon. Okay, we're about 4 kilometers up, still falling under this drogue. Let's ditch. Well, that didn't work, did it? I was hoping to be able to ditch my heat shield and make my landing a little more, careful. But that doesn't seem to have worked at all. In fact, it seems that has slowed my descent, but the heat shield is firmly stuck to the bottom of my spacecraft. Perhaps some interaction with the atmosphere is holding it in place. Either chemical or dynamic. Look, oh, oh, look, it's starting to come off. It kind of looks like a mouth there. It's like Beaker from the Muppets. Me, 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 me. You see, it is. It's like the Beaker probe. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you should go and see the Muppets, because the Muppets are awesome. Way better. Yeah, I hate Sesame Street. I'm sorry. I grew up with the Muppets, and then Sesame Street came on, and I'm like, yeah. Oh, look, there we go. That's it, we're finally getting rid of it. Oh no, Beaker's losing his mouth. Just kidding. Okay, so now we are down to 29 meters per second. Are we low? We're still in the upper atmosphere here. We still have no more new science at this altitude. Oh look, we are being passed by our heat shield. The supposedly heavy heat shield. Oh, wait, where'd my parachute go? Where's my... Oh, okay, of course, it's a two-stage shoot. That sneaky shoot's trying to confuse me. Well, regardless, now I'm about 500 meters up. Surely I'm low enough to start collecting low atmosphere science from this barometer. Look, wait a second, why is it not doing that? Wait a second, it's log temperature. The screen is displaying all temperature puns. Not very good. Come on, how low is low atmosphere science? Still no indication as to why it's all so purple. Barometer, yes, barometer would be broken, etc, etc. Gas chromatograph. Here, instead of distant clouds of sulfuric acid found in the higher atmosphere, it exists as a haze. Okay, no seismometer just yet. Soon your time shall come, soon, Mr. Seismometer. There is much for you to learn. Or, well, hopefully. I mean, do seismometers actually work in the liquid, in the seas? I was about to say water, but this is not water. I think we've decided this is probably some sort of mercury-based rocket fuel. So, you know, as I said, dimethyl mercury. That would be the stuff. Hideously toxic, will pass straight through rubber, blah, yada, yada, yada. Come on, we're like 200 meters up. This is taking so long. Oh, wow, yeah, this is taking so long. I'll just time accelerate very, very quickly to the ocean here, hoping that some awesome stuff will be here. Oh, wait, I think I forgot to turn on the voice changer, and you're hearing me without my fake Scottish accent. Almost there, and... touchdown! Touch the splashdown. And nothing caught fire, which is quite... Well, it's actually unsurprising because, you know, we would need an oxidizer. We have carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and argon. None of those things tend to combust with diethyl mercury, or dimethyl mercury. You know, I get those confused all the time. As do certain people that fear, you know, vaccines and things like that. Okay, so what are we going to do? We want to activate things here. Log the temperature. The liquid appears to be radiating heat. Why? That's fascinating. The goo appears to have merged with the liquid. Oh no, we've contaminated the oceans. Observe materials bay. The gel samples begin to evaporate, making odd-coloured smoke. You suddenly wonder if this could be used to make coloured exhaust. The needle spins wildly before the device caves in and begins to fizz. Perhaps the oceans are in fact soda. That would be nice. Of course, you know, Coca-Cola is legendarily corrosive, supposedly. That would be consistent with some of the descriptions of Eve's oceans. Log gravity data. You feel lucky you aren't sinking. Yes, well, the probe should. Meanwhile, back in space, the ELU, I don't know, Explorer, I guess, is going to have to make a course correction so that it arrives at ELU in about a year and a half. Yes, somebody noticed in the previous episode that this was in my timetable, and yes, you're getting to see this thing. Unfortunately, it's still a year and a half away from the target. There we go, burn complete, and what do we see? We see, well, we take out the maneuver node, and there, 1 year, 110 days. Okay, so it's 1 1/3 years, not 1.5 years. Moving not so swiftly on, we have the second of our atmosphere probes, once again making its debut on the giant purple stage that is Eve, dropping the periaps down to just under 60 kilometers and making... Well, crossing my fingers, well, it would cross fingers if it actually had robot manipulators, but instead it just flips around the back off the planet and starts to interact with the purple goodness that is Eve. Now, I will point out that some of you noticed that one of these, both of these experiments were in fact open, and that is absolutely true. They had not been transmitted. They were intended for the astronaut to pick them up, but instead he forgot and they've flown off into Eve. And I don't think he's going to be going to retrieve the data from these experiments. Good thing we still have something on the spacecraft, on on the Eve Explorer to actually collect this data for him. So all I needed to do was reset the experiments because they hadn't been transmitted. Anyway, this thing continues to descend through the atmosphere like a thing falling very, very quickly. Now, the game is telling me that these clouds are horrifically toxic and dangerous things, but frankly, my degrees in interior design and decoration are telling me that that purple is more offensive to the eyes than to any other senses. Did I say interior design? Pardon me, slip of the tongue. What I really meant to say was my degrees in astrology, because of course it's very important to be able to predict people's reactions to colours by looking at the day they were born and the arrangement of the stars in the sky, which will have a hugely important effect upon their lives. Yes, astrology is incredibly important to my channel. As you understand, I am being very careful to coordinate the release of my videos so that they align with the natural rhythms of the universe and bring harmony to everything. It's very important to understand the harmonic nature of YouTube and how the ebb and flow of cat videos will actually bring the earth to a new state of enlightened being. This is what I have learned through my work in astrology. And after that long descent, we are finally just about to touch down on the surface, the actual surface of Eve. Brilliant! There we have it. Finally solid ground, which means the seismometer will actually be able to do its work, but well, we have to wait for the things to clear, for the experiments to clear right now. What does the Science Junior have to say? The samples appear to be torn between their allegiance to green and their new environment of purple. They turn an indecisive shade of blue. What we need is Commander Ivanova to solve this particular problem. What does the mystery goo think? The goo looks very purpley. Actually, the correct term is purple-ish, if you ask me. What else do we have? Thermometer. The temperature is so hot the thermometer wants to slap you in the face. Yes. Liquid chromatograph doesn't do anything useful. Gravity data. Just looking at the readout makes you feel heavier. Yes, 1.75 or something, is it? It's not pretty. Barometer. Atmosphere! Yes! I could have told you that without sending that expensive instrument. Okay, what other ones? We have the chromatograph. The atmospheres of Eve seem to consist primarily of carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Well, that's convenient. And the seismometer, finally getting in touch with its inner Eve. The sensor has detected possible seismic activity below the surface. Run atmosphere analysis. As you analyze the pressure around you, you start to feel very hesitant about sending any Kerbals out there. It's a good thing I didn't bring any with me, because otherwise, I wouldn't be sending them outside, except for a quick look around. Okay, so that is much of the surface science done. Let us move swiftly on and back into the skies above Eve. Out to, in fact, the moons about Eve. The Eve satellite is coming in for its final encounter with Gilly. Its relative velocity is less than 100 meters per second, but as we've seen, this thing does accelerate rather more slowly than many things that accelerate very slowly. And for that matter, it decelerates very slowly, because deceleration is, of course, the same thing as acceleration, but they're spelled differently. That's what physics taught me. Anyway, by turning the antenna all the way around and looking over its shoulder, we're able to get 30 megawatts. 30 megawatts of power, which confuses the maneuver node system to make it not sure where the actual maneuver is going to be. And so, after a bit of burning and a bit of thinking, a bit of consideration, what we're trying to do is slow our encounter velocity. Oh, there, you see, it's like not sure if we're going to encounter once more. So I make another trim adjustment to try and bring the spacecraft into a closer encounter sooner with Gilly, trying to make sure that when we do encounter it, we will have plenty of time to slow down. Now, as we are about to cross into the sphere of influence of Eve, there should be some new science for me to collect. That's the whole reason this satellite is here. It has these nice magnetometers, which unfortunately are both carrying stored data from around Eve. So if I want to get a reading on Gilly, I'm going to have to dump one of these, at least temporarily. So what I do, I log the data. It certainly didn't capture a magnetic field. So I do that, and that means I'm going to have to fly out of the sphere of influence again and then back in to collect the scientific data. Anyway, it doesn't just have the magnetometers on it, it has a whole host of other scientific instruments, only one of which is useful, the log gravity data. Gravity data for logs. The gravity is ridiculous. Playing Kerbal on Gilly might end up putting the ball into orbit. Except that it would fall back down, because we all know that you can't do that. Anyway, after a quick excursion out of Gilly's sphere of influence to get the data, and falling back in, I have a burn of 0.5 meter per second to do. Unfortunately, I only have about 300 kilowatts. A bit of monkeying around with this gets me some more power. 350! And you can see how ridiculous the thrust is on this. It is absolutely minuscule. Ion engines generate more thrust than this. But Interstellar don't care. It's just producing really spectacular, engine effects for this thing, regardless of the fact of how little thrust it's actually generating. Look, we managed to knock our predicted maneuver down by 0.1 meters per second. Except that the wobbling in the spacecraft is bigger than that. And you can see why from this angle. You can see that the planet Kerbal is there, and the point at which I'm at periaps around Gilly is on the far side of that thing. So the only place I'm getting power from are those solar power arrays, which really still aren't even close to their proper position. Regardless, they get there. Anyway, back at Kerbal Space Center, the boys from the aviation team, helped by Bill, Jeb and Bob, have come up with a new single stage to orbit spaceplane. Now this will be filling in for the rocket launches which are really needed to deploy that solar network. These will hopefully be carrying stuff to near Kerbal orbit. They'll be able to launch just as often, or at least they'll be able to launch in between the regular the rocket launches. Unfortunately we haven't worked on the cabin just yet. I should probably get a mod for that. But there it goes, it's using the B9 Sabre engine. It has those little intakes on the side attached to intercoolers. The main fuselage is a B9 with a cargo bay in there. We have a couple of nuclear engines on the side, and we are not really accelerating as fast as I would like because I'm trying to pitch up and I'm still not getting any response here. I'm just tweaking the yaw and the roll to keep it on the runway. Come on, pitch! Come on, pitch up! Oh, there we go. We are airborne and we are heading into the skies. We have very important mission for this thing. So the first place this is going to visit is going to be the power station in orbit. Now you'll notice if I'm clicking here that there is some fuel imbalance building up. I'm not sure what's causing this, but I'm going to use the fuel balancer to balance all the fuel, and everyone will be really happy and it'll keep straight. So that'll keep progressively balancing the fuel between the tanks and stop the thing yawing. It does appear to be horrifically hard to fly. It just wants to oscillate up and down all the time. This flew a lot better during the test when it didn't have a payload as well. But it's able to climb up at about 180, 190 meters per second. We're pretty much going in a 10-degree climb here. The nose is in a 20-degree climb, but the actual velocity vector is nearer to 15 degrees at this point. Now, unfortunately, this runs into a minor problem on the way up. You see, I've already mentioned that the control surfaces get weaker once you hit about Mach 1 because of supersonic effects. Well, what happens is, as I reach about 10 kilometers, I start to really pick up speed, which means my control surfaces get weaker, which means my nose starts to go down, and I start to have real trouble gaining altitude. And I ended up spending way too much time getting this thing actually into orbit. But of course, we'll see this thing doing its job in orbit in the next episode. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.